Morning, Buffalo, Western New York, Southern Ontario. This is Bishop Michael A. Badger, the senior pastor of Bethesda World Harvest National Church, and beside me is
Terry McKelvey, attorney at law.
Yeah.
Located at 181 Franklin Street here in downtown Buffalo. And our office can always be reached at 424-2070. 424-2070.
And this is Legal Eagle Saturday. So before we get into our discussion, John Elmore, who happens to be traveling back from Chicago, where he was making a presentation, is not with us today. Probably going to call in. But the $3 million number is the number for John Elmore. If you, all of your slip and falls and car accidents and all of those type of legal needs, it's John Elmore. That's who I use. That's who I recommend. And then I'll let Terry McKelvey share how you can reach out to him.
Yes, and as I stated, our office downtown Buffalo at 181 Franklin Street, right across the street from the charter school. And we can be reached at 424-2070. We do all general practice kinds of things, everything from real estate, everything from estates. You know, when you have a family member that passes, there can be very serious complications, particularly if that person failed to actually do a will. And there are other ways of avoiding probate, which we've discussed here on the Vision of Hope broadcast in the past. We always try to be available when clients call to provide the kind of direction and advice that a lot of times the layperson might be unaware of to take advantage of. So again, we can always be reached for all those kinds of general practice matters. When it comes to accidents, we readily refer to our clients, to John Elmore, who we are very proud of, because it's been very difficult for black lawyers to get into that area of personal injury. And John and his daughter Kristen have successfully done it, and we're very proud of what they're doing. And the public, the constituency, need to know that when you have an accident, it's very important that you realize that 1/3 of whatever the recovery is and how serious that accident is going to go to the lawyer. So if there's a $3 million accident, you're giving $1 million to that law firm. Why not give it to a law firm who contributes to our community, who serves things such as the NACP, the Urban League, and all of the necessary concerns that our community has? So we encourage us supporting our own in every way we possibly can, including in terms of the law practices. And again, for general practice needs, Terry McKelvey, 424-2070.
All right, and then we have Dr. Frances Aluza. Pray for her and her family at the loss of her mother. The funeral takes place in Nigeria next Saturday. She was 93 years old. Dr. Frances Aluza is in our prayers and has our condolences for her family, but her mom lived a long, full life. But just remember her in prayer. And that's Rafa Family Medicine, Rafa Family Wellness Center, for all of your primary medical needs. Dr. Frances Aluza. Also want to send our condolences to the family of Stephanie Barber Jeter. Stephanie, matter of fact, I was looking at a clip of Stephanie that was on Facebook today, talking about the covering of the 33 and the monies that they had gotten. And she was just a champion in our community. I'm hoping that when they redo that parkway, that they could name it Stephanie Barbara Jeter Parkway. I think that there's no way, I believe, that we would be at this point to covering the 33 without Stephanie. Her voice, her leadership, her smarts, her ability to communicate and to cast a vision was unique in this particular process. And shout out to her family, and she's going to be dearly missed. She wow, you don't replace a Stephanie Barber. And so I don't have any information on funeral arrangements yet. I believe she was a member of Elam Christian Fellowship under the leadership of Bishop Troy Bronner. But hopefully those arrangements will be coming up soon. But wow, she's going to be dearly missed. Terry, did I hear Mary Davis pass?
Yes, and so we also want to offer our condolences to Mary Davis's family. For those of you who remember, Mary Davis was an icon in this community because it was one of the early television shows before cable. And myself and Frank Giss and very other notable people she would regularly have on her television program. And she would not hesitate to be very controversial in the issues that she would want to address. And Mary had the kind of voice that carried very well over the radio. We were always impressed with her. It was not unusual for myself and other guests like Frank Giss to confront her in various arguments. Mary was a strong union supporter. And of course, there are certain unions that we've had problems with, such as the teachers when they weren't going in the direction that we thought they should go in. But Mary Davis was an activist, and again, through her television program, she provided the kind of information, again, before cable, that provided the kind of notoriety and information on issues that otherwise would have gone unknown in our community.
Yeah. I also want to make this announcement for my sister here at WUFO and 96.5. There's a jam down inviting everybody out to this Caribbean celebration. She's originally from Jamaica via New York City, Queens, and she works here at the station. And so you can get more information at Caribbean and Cultural.org, caribbeanandcultural.org. Stop by there. February 17th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The admission is $25. But stop by the website there and check that out for her. All right, so Terry is Legal Eagle Saturday. I talked to John yesterday. He mentioned the fact that the young man that did the massacre at Tops Supermarket is up for the death penalty. Your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm going to say this. Generally, I and many of us have historically been against the death penalty because it's been inequitably used against us as a people. Mm-hmm. So we have always had a problem with the death penalty for one reason. One of the main reasons, I should say, is because, again, we felt it was inequitably applied against us. Mm-hmm. We would be the ones to suffer the death penalty. Myself, my own personal view, I don't have a problem if there's a guy like a Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson, mm-hmm. These guys who are outrageous murderers. I don't have a problem. This is my own personal perspective on it, as opposed to putting them away somewhere for life. If that particular state in the Union decided that these people were eligible for the death penalty and disposing of them, I'm not going to be out on any line protesting that kind of application of the death penalty. However, again, we have a concern about it generally, and maybe are against it generally because it's historic application being used against black people.
Yeah. Well, and I know when I talked to John yesterday, and I know him and his team have done a tremendous amount of work about the influence of the internet and the ability to indoctrinate and to really mesmerize, especially young people, but every age, so much, and basically a lot of what John is suing the different platforms about is that this algorithm and the targeting and how they can change, even the brain function of especially, young adults. And so, understanding that, I'm a little hesitant in this, but here again, my loved one was not lost. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I would feel. I don't know. He's 18, but he was indoctrinated. He was, over and over again, intentionally sent these algorithms, these platforms that spewed hatred. And when you're a teenager, I don't know if you yet have the ability to comprehend all of the implications of your actions yet. That being said, I don't know. I'm probably against the death penalty in general because of the fact of how many black folks go and a lot that have died that were innocent.
Yep.
So
the Innocence Project is a group of lawyers who have fought historically,
yes,
for black people who have been falsely accused, and we've all seen it on TV over and over again. Young men who have done 20 years, 40 years, who have been determined through
and
DNA,
been on death penalty,
been on the
death row,
penalty, death row,
yeah. And
DNA and other new scientific means, forensic means, have revealed that these people were innocent. In fact, so we have a good reason to be against the death penalty, if for no other reason. That reason, it's inequitable application. I also, it's not just young people. I would say, Bishop, if you look at the insurrection in January, they got many of those people now who were overwhelmingly influenced by the media.
Yeah,
said,
just brainwashed.
Brainwashed.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was doing.
That's the word I wanted to use, yeah.
Exactly. I regret it. These are grown men, full adults.
Right.
And they're saying, hey, listen, I'm watching Fox News and I'm trying to do the right. They think of themselves as patriots.
Right.
And they're coming and attacking the Capitol. So we have to be careful. And now with AI, artificial intelligence, and the kind of media control, most of us have been absolutely convinced that a big factor in Trump's original election or selection was Russian interference in social media and leading people to believe one thing or another about his opposing candidates. So we have to be very careful of that. And now when they've got things like artificial intelligence that you can be watching, who appears to be Barack Obama, giving a speech that is totally out of context for him, you just don't know.
Right. And and Terry, so much of our news now is coming from social media, from bloggers who, it's really scary because most of what you hear, you can't trust that it's factual.
Absolutely.
And even on what was credible news stations, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, you can name them all. It's more commentary now than it is news.
Yep.
I mean, you're not just getting a non-biased report of the news. You're getting a commentary. And we know if it's CNN, it's going to be slanted to the left. If it's Fox, it's going to be slanted to the right. So it really is a challenging time. You really have to do your homework,
to
right?
Find out the truth.
To find out the truth, yeah.
Because even these so-called fact finders, I mean, you've got to check them out when they are saying what the actual facts were. I've had friends that say, what, you were watching Fox News? Yeah, I watch Fox, I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC, and then I try to come to a conclusion and do my own research as to what really happened here and what the facts are.
Yeah. I'm probably, a little negligent, Terry, when it comes to the news. I don't watch much of it. I get, because it just aggravates me. If I watch Fox, I want to throw my shoe through the TV. And then CNN, I'm like, I got problems with that,
Well, I know in my house we have to have more than one television because my wife has the same attitude that you do. Ruby does not want to sit with me as a news junkie and watch one thing after another. I'll be switching the channels.
I used to be like that. Now, I tell you what, I will listen, and I'm not as bad as I used to be. NPR was on my in my car all the time. That's all I listen to. Yeah. I've gotten a little better now. I'm not as bad about that. I don't know. I guess, especially during this time of year where there's a lot of sports interest, I'm pretty much listening to ESPN or Fox One Sports or something like that. Maybe because it's a little bit more genuine in the information that you're getting.
But let me see. You mentioned NPR, and a lot of our people who spend all day listening to hip-hop music or whatever.
Yeah.
National Public Radio. It is a little different from the other stations. This is publicly supported.
Yeah.
Their money comes from public donations.
Yeah. And they lean left, but they try to give at least some balance. Like they will have somebody with an opposing view on.
Yes.
So, and I love it. And the conversation is really stimulating, right?
Yes, it is.
So that's if I'm a listener to news, NPR is probably my favorite.
Probably closest to the facts between all of the other commercial networks. So, again, in my house, I mean, I have it on everywhere. No matter what room I walk into, I have a radio where I'm generally picking up information.
And sending it to me.
And sending it to you, too. I get emotional about a crisis. Right now, for example, I mean, I'm elated to hear that South Africa is bringing Israel to the International Criminal Court because of what they assert to be
genocide.
Exactly, genocide and the annihilation of Palestinian people. I'm not even getting into the politics of Hamas and versus Israel, but I do want to say is that you have to be able to, when you got 150 of the UN nations saying, hey, it's time for a ceasefire. We need to look, because too many babies, too many children are being massacred. We all understand that Israel, like every other country, has the right to defend itself. Defending yourself is one thing, but you got to get to the point to where when you find yourself blowing up hospitals and massive civilians being killed, there has to be action. So it's the irony to me is South Africa, Nelson Mandela's country, prior to that, when they were the apartheid nation that we all hated because of their apartheid policies, they were always in conjunction with Israel. Israel supported them during those times. Israel and South Africa were one. Israel didn't criticize them all the years that we had that fight going on, and we had big problems with Israel. And I want to be also clear, when we criticize Israel, we're not talking anti-Semitism. We believe Judaism is a beautiful religion. Most of us have good Jewish friends. It's not about religion. It's about one country. If Idi Amin was doing catastrophes, and I'm totally against Idi Amin, that's not because I'm against black people or I'm against Africans. I'm against the individual and the policies of that nation. Right. And in this case, I think it's been excessive. And it's time for nations such as South Africa to say, "Hey, it's time for a ceasefire."
Yeah, and we've had our conversations. John is on the line, so we're going to bring him in. We've had our conversations about this very difficult,
controversial.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll ever be solved. Because it goes back.
Let's not get into it, Bishop.
Yeah,
it goes back to private religious discussion.
Yeah, it goes back to biblical times, right? The Old Testament. But I don't think any person with a heart can look at
babies,
children, elderly people, suffering, dying, and not feel compassion. It is a difficult thing on both sides. 1,400 Jewish people were slaughtered in horrific ways. That many Jews had not died since the Holocaust. So you have this reaction to that. But at some point, the conversation switches, it changes, because you have this overwhelming power, against
the United States for one thing.
United States, but Israel on its own has a lot of power.
Well,
firepower.
Because we give them $4 billion a year or more. Yeah. And so that power comes from the support of the Big Brother.
Yeah. Well, the challenge, and I'm gonna we'll end it with this, but
don't let me and Bishop get into these.
It it is a heart-wrenching situation when you love humanity, right? And you see that. I feel the same way about, what's happening over in um, uh, Ukraine, yes, what the Russians are doing and bombing and seeing the suffering that happened there. And America is supporting them. Yep. Without that support, Russia would have already taken that country. Right. It seems that, support is starting to wane. Here again, whenever there's this long process, opinions and thoughts change.
And Bishop, now we got to be concerned about China and Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, that's been a concern for a long time. Yeah. It's just a matter of when, not if.
It's the same situation.
Yeah, not if, right? John, are you there?
I am here. How are you? Good morning, Terry. Good morning, Bishop Badger. Good morning, West New York.
Good morning, John. Where you at, man? You still in Chicago?
I'm in Chicago. I don't know when I'll be able to get home.
I told you, John. I told you, John. Yesterday, yeah. I told you, well, hopefully you'll get home. Because, the weather, man.
It's pretty bad. So, but yeah, I was a Martin Luther King speaker at a St. Francis Hospital here in Chicago. I wish I could have been in Buffalo yesterday. But, a kind of funny thing about the Franciscans, when I was born in 1956, I was born at a St. Francis Hospital in Olean, New York. And my parents had very poor insurance that only paid $100, and my mom told me they let me go with a $45 bill. So I don't owe them anything after today. Coming out here in order of St. Francis, okay? I paid my debt in full after 67 years. But what I wanted to do was just really quickly just let folks know what happened in court yesterday in federal court on Gendron, where the U.S. attorney filed notice that they're going to seek the death penalty to let the community know what to expect from now. Is that okay? And I'm
sure.
not going to take long because I know you guys are on other topics. Okay? So the first thing I want to say is the most important people's sentiments or feelings about what happens to Gendron, whether he gets death or whether he gets life, and the Justice Department's decision are the families of those that affected, because those are the ones that suffer every day for the tragic loss that they have. My opinion as to whether or not he should get the death penalty or anybody else's opinion, it doesn't matter. It's only those families, and the families are divided. Yes. Some want him to go to jail. They feel if he goes to jail, he's going to get his in jail. Somebody's going to beat him, smack him around, and he's going to have a lot of time to think about what happened, and it's going to be torture, and that's worse than death, and death is too easy. And then other folks say, no, man, an eye for an eye, kill him. He killed people from our community, and he deserves to die. Mm-hmm. So first thing is this, that the average time for someone to get the death penalty in New York, in the United States, if they're convicted federally, before they get that needle, the average time has been 18 years. So there's not any finality there. And every time people go to court, they have to relive what happened. So we have to expect to relive what happened, because it's going to be a long time. Yeah. The other thing I think the community has to expect is that when this case goes to trial, expect to be angry, because there are not going to. I'm going to predict right now there's not going to be one African American jury. It's going to be an all-white jury, because guess what? Sometimes the government, first of all, our community is divided on the death penalty anyways. A lot of us are just anti-death penalty. We feel that it has been discriminatory against black folks, and we're just opposed to it, or for religious reasons or whatever. But the other reason is that when you are really connected to the crime, or the victims of the crime, if you're really connected to Jefferson Avenue, if you're somebody that's gone to the top supermarket or gone to a prayer vigil or donated money or food or anywhere provided service, the judge will allow either side to excuse you for cause, and that's just going to be the case if you know a victim. And we live in a small community, then those people aren't going to be able to serve. And our community is so connected.
Yeah.
You have to be out to sleep or in the dark. If you didn't know somebody, if you didn't donate money, if you didn't shop at that store, if you didn't frequent Jefferson Avenue, where you been, brother? Where you been, sister? So I think we need to get prepared for a case to go to trial in front of an all-white jury, and that's going to create anger in our community. And so that's what I can say to expect in a criminal case. It's going to be years away before there's going to be a trial. There's going to be a lot of motions that are going to be held, hearings that are going to be held. There's going to be delays, and so we're probably 3, maybe 4 years away for a trial. And then if there is a finding of a sentence of death, there's going to be appeals and several years of appeals. And then after appeals, if the appeals are held up, then certainly you got a long time. The average person, again, is on death row for 18 years before they're executed. So that's what I wanted to let the community know. The civil case is going well. We're scheduled to argue some additional motions. I'll be arguing them personally against Vintage Arms on February 1st in front of Judge Farrelletto. And then the other attorneys that filed their lawsuit 2 months after we filed ours, some of their motions will be heard on February 1st and 2nd as well. So that's an up-to-date for you.
Thanks, John. Terry and I did talk about it briefly at the beginning of the show, and you're right. There are split opinions, but and my comment was, I didn't have a family member that passed, so I have my own personal beliefs. I don't know how I would feel if it was my mom. I know Garnell well. I know his family. We grew up together, went to elementary and junior high school together, knew his mom well. She was one of the community mothers, school mothers, was always there, was always involved, one of them that would get on you. Boy, stop acting like that, and so, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about the death penalty. And in that particular case, I could just only give my own personal opinion, like you said, about the injustices and so many black folks that have been on death row unfairly and unjustly. So,
well, I hear what John is saying is that, the death penalty, even if it's given, it takes so long.
Yeah, 18 years.
18 years. So in a way, you're getting both.
Yeah.
You're getting significant time in prison and suffer the kind of treatment that John was suggesting he would likely go through. And for those who feel, the cost of maintaining somebody like that in jail, my tax dollars, I'm supporting this guy while he's in jail. The cost of that is more than somebody going to college. I'd rather you just dispose of him and get him out the way. I mean, that is one philosophical position that can be taken, and it often is taken. But of course, we as a people, we have traditionally and generally have to be against the death penalty generally because of its disparate use against us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just a couple other facts. There are other people that were responsible, other entities that were responsible for what happened on May 14th. We're the gun industry. In 1974, there were only 3 mass shootings in America. To this year, there were over 600. We didn't have the AR-15 until 2004, and that's the weapon of choice. That weapon will shoot a bullet that will travel 600 yards in 1 second, and it shatters bones, it shatters organs, people die instantly. It's a weapon of war. There are 16 million AR-15s in civilians' hands now, and a lot of those people are crazy. A lot of those people are parts of a militia that want to overthrow the government. A lot of those people that have these weapons want to start a race war. They want to go and that's the weapon of choice. And our government really needs to do more because let me tell you, 16 million people. That's more people that live in the state of Ohio or the state of Pennsylvania. 16 million people. That would be like the sixth largest state. The population of the sixth largest state in the United States. And so people are walking around and they want to go to a mall, they want to go to a parade, they want to go to school without fear of some crazy person having them. When these AR-15s, when they're out there, that fear is not going to go away. And then we have, if you look in the days of Martin Luther King, and this is Martin Luther King weekend, the Klan, if they wanted to spread hate, they'd stand on some crazy corner covering their face with masks and handing out pamphlets. And now you have people that want to spread white supremacy, and they want to spread hate and create a war or whatever. And they can, with a push of a button, spread that message to millions and millions of people instantly on the internet and social media platforms that are making profits by spreading hate. And so until our government, takes away some of these protections that are making it difficult for lawsuits and to have these corporate entities responsible, this gendering it's going to do one thing. It's going to get retribution, but it's not going to stop the spread of hate. It's not going to stop mass shootings. It's just going to serve one purpose, and that's retribution.
Sure. One of the things that, and this year is a pivotal year for our country, I believe, in which direction we're going in. Are we going through totalitarianism, or are we going to continue to be a republic or, quasi-democratic society, right? I just heard on the news recently that Trump would not renounce violence, if he didn't win the election. John talks about 16 million AR-15, so these people, and many of them claim to be quote unquote Christians.
Yep.
I guess they feel like unless the country has the same moral values as them, then you'd rather have a dictator to try to force people to, to believe or at least acquiesce to your moral values.
Yeah.
God doesn't even do that.
Yeah.
All right. So it is a concerning time for America. And I get it that, Biden is old. So is Trump. Mm-hmm. And maybe Biden won't serve out his term. I don't know. But I could tell you this. I think Biden has done a good job, especially coming in during a pandemic that Trump exacerbated with his policies and how he dealt with this thing right from the beginning, and the type of animus that he stirred up in this country. So, and I don't like to, go down that political road, but I'm really concerned about the future of this country. After January 6th, and a lot of people, a lot of our neighbors, a lot of people in Western New York don't believe that was, a group of people trying to overthrow the government. They don't believe that.
They believe that the election was unfair.
Right. And that Trump won.
And that Trump won.
Even though you have in places like Georgia where you have a staunch Republican who was a Trump backer saying it was a fair election.
Judges.
Right.
In all the cases that has gone to court as to whether or not it was a fair election, all the judges have stated, Trump-appointed judges included, have determined that there was no evidence that the election was unfair.
So let's go down this road because I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say. This whole thing with Colorado is going to go to the Supreme Court quickly. What's your thoughts on, John and Terry, on how the Supreme Court will rule on this? I know that the majority of the court is conservative, 3 of them appointed by Trump, but what's your thoughts on how you think the court will rule on this? John, I'll let you go first, since you're...
Sure. I think that Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh and all the Trump-appointed judges are going to find some procedural reason or some due process reasons to say that he should be on the ballot because he has not been convicted. The reason that we have that amendment was to prevent civil war. People who fought against the United States from becoming the president and holding office. And guess what? They didn't have a trial either. They didn't have a trial either. They didn't have any type of due process. So, when they look back at history, I think that's the strongest argument that we would have to keep him out of office. But I'll tell you one thing. African Americans need to come out and vote. Detroit, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. We cannot.
Cleveland,
Cincinnati,
Columbus,
come out and
Cincinnati.
Vote. Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we don't come out and vote strongly, that's to blame.
Yeah.
I think John hit it on the head. Is that if you're going to depend on the Supreme Court coming to a determination that the president was in violation of the 14th Amendment, that the former president, Trump, was in violation of the 14th Amendment, I think you're thinking wrong, because they're going to look at the fact that even with various state officials, whether it be Maine or Colorado, have come to the determination that he's not eligible to be on the ballot because of what he did. There's been no judicial determination that, in fact, it may be very obvious. We saw him up there. We saw him encourage it.
Yeah, by the time you have a judicial decision, the government might be totalitarianism, and he in charge, and you might be on trial.
Buying time is his technique and his lawyer's technique. Buying time till he gets in, and then he can destroy all of the attorneys, U.S. attorneys that are bringing cases against him. He can just cease and desist all of that.
Yeah, we live in an amazing time. That's interesting. So he's innocent until proven guilty, basically, is how you think the court will come down on this. Yeah. Well, and it's always interesting to get a legal attorney's viewpoint of the law, because what you think is reasonable is not how the law thinks.
That's right.
And so that's interesting.
Particularly when, as John pointed out, you've got that's the composition of this particular Supreme Court.
Right.
They're more than likely to say, hey, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but to deny the people the right to vote, let them decide, to deny them based on your basic speculation that he's guilty of that. There's been no judicial determination, no finding of fact that he actually did.
Wasn't he impeached?
Yeah.
Was that part of the impeachment, or was that wasn't he impeached like twice, or I don't know? Yeah,
but it's not judicial. That's a political determination by the Senate, by the Congress.
But that's a legal process.
It's a legal process. Yeah.
And most of them people are attorneys.
And the evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah.
He did participate. He did encourage. It's on video for everybody to see. That he encouraged it. He said, "We're going down to the Capitol. I'm going with you." And of course, he went the other way.
And so for the layperson, right, that looks at the Supreme Court, is supposed to be this impartial.
Yeah.
Group of people that are there for life, and the reason why they're there for life is so that they won't be politically influenced.
That's right.
They could be independent. This is pretty scary.
Yeah.
So, as attorneys, what do you guys think about the future of the Supreme Court? And if they rule like this, what does it do to their credibility in the future?
Well, right now, all the polling suggests that the Supreme Court, public opinions of the Supreme Court is at its lowest in any time in history, and it's going to probably continue to be that way. We have a nation that is divided, between red states and blue states, and we're not considered to just all be Americans. So, I think that this country is in crisis. It's probably, in my lifetime, the most divided country that it has been since 1968, when they were having all these assassinations and the divide over the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement and Voting Rights Act and all of that. We're going through that period of crisis again, and I don't know how we're going to come out, but there's just a lot of tension, and not only that, but we're fighting with debt. I mean, we can't even we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, so our country is in danger, really.
And I would even go further back, John. I'd go back to divided since the Civil War.
Yeah.
When you talk
and the division, Terry, is within homes.
That's right.
Not within states.
Families.
Right. That's why I said within homes. Yeah.
Right. At Thanksgiving dinners, all the saints say, don't talk
within
politics.
Bedrooms.
That's right.
Right.
Don't talk politics at Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, because all it's going to do is break up the family. And many families have, in fact, just like with the Civil War, families broke up.
Yeah. Yeah. The amazing thing about history is it keeps repeating itself.
Yes. But, to a large extent, I mean, generation after generation, you're dealing with a lot of the same people who, there's this accusation, well, it used to be the Democrats that were the racists and so forth. What happened is, I want to clarify this because you always hear this argument.
The Republican was
the Democrats of the old South. Yeah. By the time Lyndon Johnson came in, and in the 1960s introduced all kinds of civil rights legislation, the Democrats of the old South switched and became the Republicans of today. And those are not the Democrats who were discriminatory and who stood in front of school doors and prevented integration and so forth. Those are now the Republicans. They were Democrats. As a result of Lyndon Johnson, they became the Republicans. And you're dealing with that right-wing base of Trump that are the people. And by the way, John talks about the debt. Nikki Haley, who is probably closest to presenting a problem for Donald Trump, she's pointing out that with that tax cut, that Trump contributed trillions to the problem that we're having, that John is referring to, that's bringing this country down. And as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it's not just the Supreme Court, it's the FBI, it's the CIA. Confidence has gone with all of those agencies. Yeah. And these people have no trust in the FBI anymore. They have no trust in
all of those foundational institutions are cracking.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting. And history, once again, is amazing how it repeats itself. And, when you look at the Roman Empire and all of these other, empires that have, that were strong and looked invincible. Yep. And they crumbled from within. John, you mentioned about 16 million AR-15 guns. So there's no way that there's going to be some force from outside that is going to come in and overtake this country, because it is, there's too many guns here, right? But we'll implode.
We're self-destructive.
Yes. I think we got to...
When you think about it, 16 million AR-15s, 12 people living in Ohio, 12 million people living in Pennsylvania. That's a lot of weapons, and a lot of these weapons are in the hands of some crazy people.
Yeah, absolutely. The type of people who were there on January 6th. Let's go to our phone lines. We got a phone call. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, Mother Doe.
Yes, this is Miss Doyle. I know you're on a different topic, but I want to just say something regarding the decision of the death penalty for the the
Ginrin?
white racist killer.
Yeah, we talked about that, so I'd be interested to hear your
is that
comment.
he should stay in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Catherine Massey well. She was a fellow journalist. There's a park on the corner of Jefferson near Tennessee that's named in her honor. I know you remember the 22 caliber killer. He got prison time. He died in prison. He died in prison of breast cancer. I don't know if people know that or not. He didn't serve out his time. And I also want to say at the end that I want to remind our community to never forget what happened on May 14th. In my book, I have a chapter dedication and tribute to those people who lost their lives on May the 14th. And I hope that we will hurry up, those who are planning a monument, to put up a monument so they need to do it quickly so that we don't forget what happened. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dr. Joy.
Okay.
Betty Jean Grant on Facebook mentions the fact that there is going to be a meeting about the results of the survey that the community received on the 514th Memorial, and that's going to be happening Tuesday, January 16th from 6 to 7:30 at Mikowski School. And so those that are interested in finding out, the results from the survey of what that memorial is going to look like, where it's going to be, they tried to get the community voice and involvement. So please don't come after the decision and they start building it, and then you got all this opposition. Let your voice should have been heard, but you still got opportunity to hear. Please, let's do it now. Let's stop the Johnny come lately stuff.
I want to just say that Mother Doyle makes a good point when she talks about Catherine Massey. Catherine Massey was involved with me with a case she was very concerned about. That woman was brilliant. She buried me in paper, showing me how to handle the case, advising me on various aspects of the law. She was a major, major loss to our community.
Yeah, and so many of those folks. It is a day that will go down in infamy for this community. I'll never forget where I was when I heard about it, and the impact that it had on me. So we've got a few more moments to kind of discuss. Terry, you had something that you wanted to share?
Well, I wanted to reiterate some of the things that we've mentioned in the past, Bishop, and, because of general belief that, the problems that we're having in our community, everything from the carjackings to the smash and grabs and children being out of control and what's going on in our public schools. And I wanted to state that as long as we're going to continue with 72% of our children being born out of wedlock, where they're not born into a family with a mother and a father active in their lives, we're going to continue to have problems. I want to go to that as the root of our problem. We can talk about guns, we can talk about drugs, we can talk about all the incidents that they're shooting each other and so forth. But the root of the problem, clearly, in my opinion, is as long as the family has broken down, and as long as 72%, minimally 72% of our children are born out of wedlock, babies being made, many times don't know who the father is. It's interesting when you watch some of these wild programs like Maury Povich and so forth, and you have a sister on there. Yes, I'm sure he's the father. Well, he wasn't the one. They go to another one. Some of these women go back 3 and 4 times, and within that 9-month gestation period, you don't even know who the father was. That you're so freely engaged in sexual enterprise that we have these kinds of problems, and that's what we've been reduced to. And I think we have to be conscious of the fact that we have to look in the mirror and we have to make adjustments to our lifestyle.
Wow, Terry, that conversation deserves a whole program, right? I mean, because, there is fruit and then there's the root. Now you're talking about the root. So much of what we deal with often is the fruit. The symptoms, right? Instead of the cause.
Exactly.
And I'm a firm believer in family and in the nuclear family that I believe that God established when He created man. And I believe that we were created by a creator.
Yes.
And so, and I think statistically it proves, when you look at statistics of those that are in prison, educational wise, those that have criminal records. I mean, every negative impact of society, if you look at the family background of the person, a large percentage, 80 to 90%, are those that have grown up in the households where you haven't had that mother and father. Even when and let's face it, there's no perfect family. So you're going to have issues within the family.
Absolutely.
Things happen. We're human, right? But there's something about having the balance, of mother and father there that gives a sense of wholeness that you don't get when you just have one parent.
Absolutely. And also there's the economic impact.
Yeah.
We don't seem to realize that, when it's a partnership, a committed partnership of a mother and a father, a husband and a wife, you're going to be far more, the opportunity to be successful financially is far greater. You know?
And Terry, you're passionate about this because you see it every day, whether it's a marriage, divorce situation, and how it impacts the kids, or whether it's a criminal case, or whether it is a contesting of a will where, or an estate where, because there wasn't the marriage dynamics that you have those type of issues. So, your passion about this is because you see the results of it
every day, and I hear it also. My wife, Ruby's a school psychologist, and some of the stories that I hear, I'm trying to encourage her to write a book to expose all of this, the condition of our children, the fact that you have so many parents that, listen, the stories are horrific about the young girls, 13, 14 years ago. They're not in school, where they are walking the streets in Genesee Street, getting picked up, going to a hotel. And it's not unusual for the mother to be informed of what's going on. And sometimes the mother is benefiting financially from what's going on, whether it's a boy selling dope or the daughter prostituting herself in the street. Young kids. And the extent to which this is going on goes virtually unknown in our community. And of course, you're right, me is doing a lot of family court work. I see it all the time. Young men who are not involved with their child. Well, she won't let me see him. I say that's nonsense. All you got to do is, you don't even need a lawyer. You can go right to family court, go up to the 4th floor, and say the mother of the child won't let you see him. You'll get a court order saying that she has to let you see that child. Just because you're now running around with a half dozen other women, now she's mad at you because of what you're doing, and she doesn't want you to see your son or your daughter. No, you have to be involved with that child because it's generational, this impact on us. And every generation, these children are coming up with these families that are all out of order, out of control, and the children have no guidance and no direction.
Well, like I said, maybe the next time we have a program, we'll be able to really get into this because this is definitely an hour show that we'll need to just kind of and it'll be a community show for us, about us.
Yes.
Because nobody's coming to save us.
And we have to address the root of the problem.
Yeah, and we're seeing it in every aspect, right? And there are conditions that are exacerbating it, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you have, as a human being, as an adult, the opportunity to make your own decisions.
Exactly.
You know, and the powerful thing about that I love about God is that He gives you a choice. He said, choose life or death, blessing or cursing. You know, I said it before you. And so life is about choices.
That's right. Free will.
It's about choices. You chose to lay down with that man.
Yeah.
And somebody says, well, yeah, but the man's involved too. I know, but the consequences are not the same.
Right.
They're not the same. You know, that man can walk away.
Yep.
You can't. You know, and so but here again, when fathers are involved, young ladies are less likely to have children out of wedlock.
That's right.
Those statistics are there. That's facts. That's facts.
Yep.
You know, those that go to prison, you know, 90% of those brothers that are in prison didn't have a father in the home.
That's right.
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
You see what I'm saying? So we're not talking about, you know, assumptions.
That's right.
We're talking about this is data.
That's right.
This is fact driven.
And we know that these conditions didn't exist years ago. If a young daughter got pregnant, it was a major embarrassment to the family. They would want to send that daughter away to go live with an aunt somewhere in another
Well, it wasn't
state.
as pervasive, that's
Right.
for sure. But I can remember, Terry, you know, and I got to be honest, right on Genesee and Jefferson, there used to be a place for unwed girls that would go and have babies. I can remember in high school, young ladies having babies, and I can remember some young ladies prostituting. I can remember that. But it wasn't as pervasive.
Out of control.
But every generation, it gets worse.
Yep.
You see, you know, because we tend to repeat on a larger scale as we go on. I think we're just about out of time. We are out of time. And not out of conversation, but Terry, we'll have to pick this up. John, I hope you travel safely and get back safely sometime today. And if you want to reach John, the 3 million number, Terry, your number?
424-27, Terry McKelvey.
And this is Bishop Michael A. Badger, Senior Pastor, Bethesda World Harvest International Church. On tomorrow, if weather permits, we're going to do part 2 of the Year of Inheritance, 10 a.m. Come on out. Until next week, we say peace. All right. Share, like. We'll see you all next week. Come on out to church tomorrow. God bless.